felt as though they were aimed at their values, their quality of life, the decisions that they have made. Now, obviously, what we have to do as Democrats is make sure we get enough votes to win in November. And as George just said, you know, the Republicans, who are pretty shrewd about what it takes to win, certainly did jump on the comments. But what's important here is what we each stand for and what our records are and what we have done over the course of our lives to try to improve the circumstances of those who deserve to live up to their own potential, to make the decisions that are right for them and their families. And I think year after year, for now 35 years, I have a proven record of results. And what I'm taking into this campaign is my passion for empowering people, for giving people the feeling that they can make a better future for themselves. And I think it's important that that starts from a base of respect and connection in order to be able to get people to follow you and believe that you will lead them in the better direction.
Senator Obama, since you last debated, you made a significant speech in this building on the subject of race, and your former pastor, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. And you said subsequent to giving that speech that you never heard him say from the pulpit the kinds of things that so have offended people. But more than a year ago, you rescinded the invitation to him to attend the event when you announced your candidacy. He was to give the invocation. And according to the Reverend, I'm quoting him, you said to him, "You can get kind of rough in sermons. So what we've decided is that it's best for you not to be out there in public." I'm quoting the Reverend. But what did you know about his statements that caused you to rescind that invitation? Well, and if you knew he got rough in sermons, why did it take you more than a year to publicly disassociate yourself from his remarks?
Well, understand that I hadn't seen the remarks that ended up playing on YouTube repeatedly. This was a set of remarks that had been quoted in Rolling Stone magazine, and we looked at them, and I thought that they would be a distraction since he had just put them forward. But, Charlie, I've discussed this extensively. Reverend Wright is somebody who made controversial statements, but they were not of the sort that we saw that offended so many Americans. And that's why I specifically said that these comments were objectionable. They're not comments that I believe in, and I disassociated myself with them. What I also said was the church and the body of Reverend Wright's work over the course of 30 years were not represented in those snippets that were shown on television, and that the church has done outstanding work in ministries on HIV/AIDS, prison ministries, providing people with the kind of comfort that we expect in our churches. And so what I think I tried to do in the speech here at the Constitution Center was speak to a broader context, which is that there is anger in the African-American community that sometimes gets expressed, whether in the barber shop or in the church. That's true not just in the African-American community, that's true in other communities as well. But what we have the opportunity to do is to move beyond it. And that's what I think my candidacy represents. And Senator Clinton mentioned earlier that we have to connect with people. That's exactly what we've done throughout this campaign. The reason we've attracted new people into the process, the reason we've generated so much excitement, the reason that we have been so successful in so many states across the country, bridging racial lines, bridging some of the old divisions, is because people recognize that unless we do, then we're not going to be able to deliver on the promises that people hear every 4 years, every 8 years, every 12 years. And it's my job in this campaign to try to move beyond some of those divisions, because when we are unified, there is nothing that we cannot tackle.
Senator Clinton, I'm sorry, go ahead. Senator Clinton, let me follow up, but let me add to that. You have said that he would not have been my pastor. And you said that you have to speak out against those kinds of remarks, and implicitly by getting up and moving, and I presume you mean out of the church. There are 8,000 members of Senator Obama's church, and we have heard the inflammatory remarks of Reverend Wright, but so too have we heard testament to many great things that he did. Do you honestly believe that 8,000 people should have gotten up and walked out of that church?
I was asked a personal question, Charlie, and I gave a personal answer. Obviously, one's choice of church and pastor is rooted in what one believes is what you're seeking in church and what kind of fellowship you find in church. But I have to say that for Pastor Wright to have given his first sermon after 9/11 and to have blamed the United States for the attack, which happened in my city of New York, would have been just intolerable for me. And therefore, I would have not been able to stay in the church. And maybe it's, just again, a personal reflection that regardless of whatever good is going on, and I have no reason to doubt that a lot of good things were happening in that church. You get to choose your pastor. You don't choose your family, but you get to choose your pastor. And when asked a direct question, I said I would not have stayed in the church.
Well, let me just respond to two things. Absolutely, many of these remarks were objectionable. I've already said that I didn't hear them because I wasn't in church that day. I didn't learn about those statements until much later. But
you did rescind the invitation to him.
But that was on something entirely different, Charlie. That was on a different statement. And I think that what Senator Clinton referred to was extremely offensive to me and a lot of people. But what I should also point out is that Senator Clinton's former pastor, I think, publicly talked about how Reverend Wright was being caricatured, and that, in fact, this is somebody who had maintained an extraordinary ministry for many years. And so there are two important points. Number one, I wasn't aware of all these statements, and I can understand how people would take offense. But number two, the church is a community that extends beyond the pastor, and that church has done outstanding work for many, many years. The third point I guess I would make is, once again, that unless we can bridge some of these divides, we're not going to solve problems in this country. And what my entire body of work over the last 20 years has been devoted to is getting blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, Native Americans, young, old, to work together, starting when I was a community organizer. And my own life embodies that diversity. That's what America's about, and that's what this campaign has been about.
Senator, two questions. Number one, do you think Reverend Wright loves America as much as you do? And number two, if you get the nomination, what will you do when those sermons are played on television again and again and again?
George, look, if it's not this, then it would be something else. I promise you, if Senator Clinton got the nomination, there will be a whole bunch of video clips about other things. In a general election, we know that there are going to be all kinds of attacks launched and leveled. There have been quite a few leveled in this primary campaign. And I have confidence in the American people that when you talk to the American people honestly and directly about what I believe in, what my plans are on health care, on energy, when they see my track record of the work that I've done on behalf of people who really need help, I have absolute confidence that they can rally behind my campaign. And the notion that somehow that the American people are going to be distracted once again by comments not made by me, but somebody who is associated with me, that I have disowned, I think doesn't give the American people enough credit.
You've disowned him?
The comments that I've disowned, then that is not something that I think...
But you do believe he's as patriotic as you are?
This is somebody who's a former Marine. And so I believe that he loves this country, but I also believe that he's somebody who, because of the experiences he's had over the course of a lifetime, is also angry about the injustices that he's seen.
I'm getting a little out of balance here. Do you want to take a few seconds, or do you want to go to the next question?
Well, I think in addition to the questions about Reverend Wright and what he said and when he said it and for whatever reason he might have said these things, there were so many different variations on the explanations that we heard. And it is